We
Science
have been vaccinated.
and we are
Ready to welcome the new
academic year.
Welcome to Free Online Learning by Eons International Education. My name is Miss Leah, and today we are going to learn about TOEFL iBT. Particularly, what is TOEFL iBT? Well, for those of you who don't know, TOEFL iBT is a product from ETS, and basically ETS has so many English testing products, and TOEFL iBT is one of them. Maybe you are wondering, what is the difference between TOEFL iBT and the usual TOEFL that we know of? For example, TOEFL PBT or ITP. Well, for starters, the scoring is quite different. For TOEFL ITP, usually you would need about 500 or 550. And that is what is well known in Indonesia. But then ETS also has a TOEFL iBT. It is internet-based TOEFL. Basically, the scoring is ranging from 0 to 120. So, if you are planning to go abroad and you see the requirement of TOEFL is maybe 100 or 90, be careful. It's not TOEFL PBT or ITP. It is TOEFL iBT. And today we are going to learn more about what is TOEFL iBT, and then what are the skills, what are the questions in TOEFL iBT, and how we can handle it. So let's go to our presentation. Okay, so for today, we are going to try to understand TOEFL iBT together. Now, TOEFL iBT, like I said before, it is an internet-based test. This is a requirement to most universities in USA, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, Europe, and Asia. Basically worldwide. So if you are not sure if TOEFL iBT is accepted in your university, well, usually it is going to be accepted because it is legit worldwide. You just need to see the requirement of the score because not every university has the same requirement for the score. Some universities actually require you to have a higher TOEFL iBT score, and some might be a bit lower. And there are 4 skills tested compared to the 2 skills in TOEFL ITP. So if you are familiar with TOEFL ITP, we only have listening and reading and structure in between, technically. Usually it lasts for about 2.5 hours. However, in TOEFL IBT, we will have additional skills which are speaking and then writing, which means definitely we will have more time to do that. And the score range, like I told you before, it is from 0 to 120, which means that if you already score at 100, that is already pretty good. So make sure to know what is the score requirement that the university wants you to have, and then also check with the scholarship, because sometimes scholarships also have a minimum requirement for the English speaking test. Now, what about the test format in TOEFL iBT? Well, like I said before, there are 4 skills to be tested, and here is the format. The first skill to be tested is reading skill. In reading, we have 54 to 72 minutes, and then 30 to 40 questions. Well, you might be wondering, why is it not a fixed number? Why is it not just 40 questions, 30 questions, or 72 minutes? Why is it there is a range? And it also happens in the listening skill. Well, to answer that, Actually, in TOEFL iBT, in the actual test, you will have an additional set of tasks. So for example, in reading, the actual questions are only 30. So those are the tasks, those are the questions that are going to be scored. However, more often than not, ETS likes to add one more set of questions. This is basically like a survey. This is like a questionnaire. They would like to do a testing before they are launching a new question in the new official test. So you are going to do a quality assurance basically for ETS. So if you find yourself doing 40 questions instead of the usual 30 like your friends, don't worry. It just means that you have the bonus questions that ETS is asking you to test them for you. And it's not going to be marked, so do not worry. However, we don't know which one of the questions that are the bonus questions. So we kind of have to do everything with the best possible effort. And then in here, for the reading skill, let's go back to the test format. For the reading skill, it is actually pretty standard. We read the passages and then respond to the questions. But as a teacher, I'm going to advise you to read the questions first and then go to the reading passage, because that way it is much quicker and usually easier. The next skill is listening skill. For listening, this has the same deal with reading, in which we have one set of a bonus question. In listening, we have 41 to 57 minutes, 28 to 39 questions. So you will know that the actual questions, this one, 28 questions. If you have the additional questions, the bonus questions, then you would do 39 questions. But do not worry, it's not going to be tested. You are just doing a quality assurance for ETS. And then in listening, basically, we are going to listen to lectures or a classroom discussion and then respond to the questions. In listening, we have two types of recording. The first one is the conversation parts, and the second one is the lecture parts. So usually, if it is a lecture, it's one person speaking, or maybe it is a classroom discussion in which a professor explains a topic, and then there will be some kind of question and answer sessions between the professor and the students. Afterwards, we will have a break for 10 minutes, and this is a must. So you cannot push through to speaking. You have to take the break because it's mandatory for all test takers. Usually, and here is the fun part, in the break time, you will get snacks and drink. And then you have time to unwind, go to the bathroom, or maybe, I don't know, restart your brain and then refresh again so that you will be ready for speaking and writing. Because usually speaking and writing are the two skills that are stressing most students. I don't want to scare you off, but usually in speaking and writing, students put themselves in a great pressure, even though we can actually learn about it. Okay, so after the break, we're going to have a speaking test. In speaking, we have 17 minutes to finish everything. Notice that there is no range of the times in speaking. It means that the time is fixed now. So there is no more bonus question. All of you are going to have 4 questions, 4 tasks, in which you are going to use a microphone and then speak about familiar topics and discuss the material that you read about and listen to. We are going to talk about this in depth soon. I just want to give you an overview first about what is a listening skill, what is a reading, listening, and writing. And then afterwards, after we are done with speaking, we are moving to writing. In writing, we have 2 tasks and 50 minutes. Notice that it's not a cool 1 hour, it is 50 minutes because the time is going to be divided based on the 2 tasks. One task is going to be done for 20 minutes and another is going to be done for 30 minutes. We need to read a passage in writing. We need to read a passage, listen to a recording, and then write your response. And the nice thing is, it is typing, not necessarily writing. So you are not going to be sore after the task finished. And then in the writing part, the time is going to start automatically and then it's going to finish automatically as well. So make sure that you are always aware of the timer because once the time is up, you cannot do any editing. It's going to move to another type of question. So make sure that we are aware not just of the questions, but also of the time limitation. Okay, now let's move to the reading part first. Oops, sorry, I forgot about the scoring. Let's go to the scoring first. Now, like I said before, the scoring is like this. So maximum 120 and then minimum is 0. 0 is if you do not attend or you do not produce any response. You do not answer any questions. Now, because it is 120 and there are 4 skills, so per skill, the maximum score is 30. If you are in an advanced level, you can expect about 24 to 30. And because there are 4 skills and everything is going to be calculated evenly, so every skill is going to be max out at 30 points. So in here, usually if you are good at listening, for example, but then you're not very confident in writing, so max out your score in listening and do your best in writing. Because usually universities will look for the total score, the overall score, and not necessarily per score. Even though some universities might require you to have a higher score in one skill. But if your university requires you to have a total score, then take an advantage of that, which means max out in the skills that you feel like you are very confident of, and then do your best in the skills that you're not really confident, because everything is going to be the same at the end. Okay. Now, as promised, we are going to go take a look at the materials, at the skills one by one. First off is reading. Now, in reading, we have 3 to 4 reading passages. Remember, bonus questions. So normally only 3 reading passages. And then 10 questions per passage. This is the timing. We've already covered this previously. Let's move on. Now, in reading, there are 3 question formats. The first one is the traditional multiple choice format, which is a question with 4 choices and a single answer. Like, for example, this type of question. According to paragraph 3, how did scientists determine that a large meteorite had impacted Earth? A, B, C, D. So choose one answer. Because this is an internet-based test, so what you need to do is to just click on the right answer and click on next so that you can go to the next question. However, we also have the non-traditional types of questions. For example, this one, in here, it's still multiple choice. However, this is an insert a sentence type of questions, which means that this sentence in the bold belongs to one of these options in A, B, C, or D. Your job is to figure out where and just click on the option that fits the best. In a computer base, once you click the option, for example, you click option A, this sentence is going to be automatically in this space. So that way you can read again and then decide whether the flow is good or not. And then if it is not good, maybe you want to consider changing the answer. So that's also a nice part for TOEFL iBT. Next is the reading to learn questions. Now in here we have more than 4 choices and more than 1 correct answer. This kind of question usually happens at the end of the reading passage. So question number 10 is almost always like this. Now, this is the type of questions that deal with the main idea. So this is the summary questions. Basically, pick 3 options that best summarize the whole entire passage. Now, notice that there is a bold direction here, that this question is worth 2 points. So be very careful with this type of question because, well, it can really elevate your score or it can make your score suffer. Now in here we have 3 blanks, which means we only need 3 answers. However, this is the answer choices. So we have 6 answer choices. Just choose 3, and just like in the inserting a sentence, when you click on an answer, it's going to be automatically put in here, inserted in here. So you can, once again, test the flow of the answers of your summaries. Okay, so those are the type of questions in reading. Now we are going to move to listening. In listening, like I said before, there are 2 types of the recording. The first one is lecture, this one. 3 to 4 lectures, 3 to 5 minutes long, and then 6 questions per lecture. Another one is a conversation. 2 to 3 conversations, about 3 minutes long. And then we have 5 questions per conversation. Now, this next part, I want you to pay full attention. This one. The recording will be played for its entirety before the questions are shown. I'm going to repeat once more. The recording will be played for its entirety before the questions are shown, which means that we have to take notes while we are listening. So in TOEFL iBT, you are going to be given scrap paper. Make notes on the scrap paper, and even if you need more paper, ask for more paper to the staff. They will give you more paper because this is very important. You're going to listen to the recording only once, and then that's it. You don't know what the questions are, and literally anything can be asked. So make notes on everything that you hear. Okay, I cannot stress this enough. Taking notes is a very, very crucial part in listening in IBT. Okay, let's talk about the types of recording. We have conversations in an academic setting. So usually these are between a professor and a student, or a university staff and a student. The contents are generally academic in nature or related to course requirements. So usually this is about a student asking advice from the professor, or asking, I don't know, about a paper, about a course, something like that, to the professor, and then they will have a discussion. Or Sometimes it can be about a student asking about, I don't know, a new library rules to a staff member, or maybe about how to drop off a course, stuff like that. The point is that you are going to listen to conversations that you might encounter in the future if you are studying abroad. So they are preparing you for that. There will be photos that accompany the conversations to help imagine the settings. So if you see there is a classroom situation of some sort, one professor and one student, then we can expect that this is a, I don't know, like course-related conversation. But if you see a picture of a staff member and then a student, then maybe this is about campus matter. So yeah, there will be photos there to help you. And the next one is academic lectures. So in academic lectures, the format is either the professor does all the talking, so like a monologue, or the professor engage with the students by asking or answering questions. Like I said previously in the overview, it can be either way. So even when the professor asks questions to the classroom or answers questions from the classroom, this does not qualify as a conversation. It is still qualified as an academic lecture. And usually it is very topical. Like for example, it's about botany in a botany class, or about astronomy. It's about psychology, about biology, stuff like that. And do not worry. If you are not, for example, you are not a STEM student, and then somehow the topic is about, I don't know, something about STEM, biology, chemistry, for example, the questions are not going to be about something that is very topical, something about the course itself, but mostly it's about your understanding of the lecture, your understanding about what the lectures say. So do not worry. You don't need to somehow magically be an expert in a STEM or psychology or astronomy. The questions are not going to be about that. And plus, if you feel like you're going to listen to some difficult terms that you have never heard of because this is not your course, do not worry, because there will be pictures to identify the number of people talking, and sometimes the pictures also contain key terms of the lecture, which means that if you see some key terms, you don't need to worry about that. The question is not about what does it mean with this key term. No. It's mostly about how do you understand the professor? What does the professor mean when he says this? Or the most common question is about categorizations. So usually there will be categories of some sort. Like there are 3 types, there are 3 categories, and then you are going to be asked to categorize each one. Usually that's the type of question. So do not worry too much, even though it is very topical. It is going to be focused on one course, one topic, but it's not going to test you on your understanding of the topic, but rather your understanding of what the professor said. Okay, so that's for listening. Oh, before I move to speaking, please, I'm going to stress this again. Take notes in listening. If I can leave you with anything, is that take notes for listening. It is very, very important because we don't know what the questions are. We cannot predict, but we can always take notes and then be prepared. Okay, let's move on to the third skill, which is speaking. Now, in speaking, there are 4 tasks to do. The first task is, we call it as independent task. In independent task, you are going to be asked a question And then you have to defend your answer. Well, you have to answer it first, and then you have to defend your answer. Usually it's about a choice. The question asks you to make or defend a personal choice between two contrasting behaviors or courses of action. We have 15 seconds to prepare and then 45 seconds to respond. And do not worry, you are going to see the timer in your computer because this is a fully computerized test. So you don't have to speak to someone else. You don't have to talk to someone else. You don't have to be like in an interview, like in IELTS. In IBT, you only need to record yourself speaking. So you're going to listen using a headphone, and there will be like a speaker attached to it, and then you have to record yourself defending or answering the questions. Okay, these are the types of questions I already presented to you. It can be an agree or disagree question. Like for example, this one, do you agree or disagree with the following statement? College students should be given mandatory physical education. Or like an option, a choice question. Do you prefer to live on campus or off campus? So you have 15 seconds after you read the questions. So don't worry, it's solely a preparation time. It's not reading the questions for 15 seconds and then plus preparing it. No. So you're going to read the questions first and then prepare for 15 seconds. And then you're going to respond for 45 seconds. My advice, I'm going to give you an advice here because this is a free learning. My advice is to prepare your answer with at least 2 reasoning, with 2 arguments. Your opinion can be anything. You can agree with either one. You can choose either one, but please provide 2 reasons. Because 45 seconds, well, it doesn't feel like that's very long time to speak. But believe me, when we are in the real test and we only have 1 reason to defend, 45 seconds feel like a very, very long time. So provide 2 reasons and you are good to go. Okay, so the second type of question is an integrated task. In here, because it is called integrated, so it's going to integrate many skills, not just your speaking skill. We have a reading skill, a listening skill, and a speaking skill. Just like what it is said here in my PowerPoint presentation. Read, listen, and speak. So I'm going to explain this to you. What does this mean by read, listen, and speak? Well, usually the second task of speaking task is called a campus situation. So you are going to read something about a campus-related issue. Usually this can be like an announcement of, I don't know, a new library opening time, or a new gym is open, or at the closing of a campus gym. After you read the announcement or whatever it is that is in the reading passage, we are going to listen to a conversation reacting about the announcement, reacting to the reading passage. So the 2 are connected. The reading and the listening are connected. And afterwards, you have to speak. You have to summarize. What is the main idea? What is the reading about? And how well or how does the student respond to the reading passage? So basically, this is a summary of both sources. So you are presented with 2 sources and then you have to give a summary. Now, it's a little bit different from independent because we have a longer preparation time. It's 30 seconds. And then the response times is 60 seconds, which means 1 minute. And yes, 1 minute seems like it's just 1 minute, miss. It's not that long. Be careful because when we fail to understand the listening and reading, when we fail to understand all of the topics and then all of the arguments, we are gasping for air in the 1 minute presentation time. So that is why taking notes is very important. And in here, yeah, in any listening part, you are supposed to take notes. So expect loads of scrap paper. Okay, and then we're moving on to the third speaking task, which is still an integrated task. Now this is an academic course. Because this is still integrated, so it's still read, listen, and speak. However, because this is an academic course, so we need to read a passage about something that's topical, academic subject. And then afterwards, we have to listen to a lecture in the academic matter, the same academic matter. Usually it is about 60 to 90 seconds, so it's not that long. Usually provides examples and specific information to illustrate the term, process, or idea from the passage. So usually the reading passage is something that is a bit general, so something general about the topic, and then the listening passage is about something that's a bit more specific. So the lecture is going to provide more examples, going to explain more. And then your job, again, because this is an integrated task, is to summarize both. When we summarize, we have to summarize the listening. Let me say that again. When we summarize, we have to summarize the listening. Because the question is about how does the professor respond to the reading? How does the professor respond to the idea in the reading passage? Which means that the reading passage, while it is important, it serves only as a foundation, as the basic information only. We need to focus more on the listening part. So, the most common mistake is that students usually focus on the reading part. So spending 30 seconds on reading, explaining this is what it happens in reading, and then not having enough time in listening. No, that's not how the way it is. That's not even the question. The question is in listening. Tell me about the listening passage. Mention the reading as a basis, as a foundation, and then go to the listening. So spend more time on the listening passage. Okay? The next part, this is the last one for speaking. It is still an academic course, but now, even though this is the same, which is also an integrated task, but we have to only listen and then speak. So we do not need to read anything. Just listen to an academic course, to professor speaking, and then speak, and then basically summarize. How many points are there? What are the key terms? What are the professor's views about this topic? Stuff like that. And we have the same response time, 1 hour. I was going to say 1 hour, 1 minute, 60 seconds as well, but then only 20 seconds for preparing the stuff because you don't have to read. So you don't have to connect the information, but you do have to cover everything. And the total is 17 minutes. Now, you may be wondering, how is the scoring in speaking? Because it doesn't seem like there is any fixed score in speaking, which is very different from listening and reading. And I haven't mentioned this, I'm sorry, I forgot. But in reading and listening, you can see the scores at the end because it is automatically calculated. So basically, you can see your scores for listening and reading in the official test. However, it is your choice though, because I have a funny story. So I had a student once, when he took the IBT test, he didn't want to see the actual score, so the reading and listening score. He would ask the staff member to click on next, because when you click on next, after the time is up, it's going to show you the score. And he didn't want to see it because it's going to affect him in speaking and writing, and he didn't want to be affected. So he asked the staff member to click it for him so that he can go about on his test. So that is an option. If you are like my student and like me, which totally I would have done the same thing. I also will not want to save my scores in the middle of the actual test. You can do that. You can ask the staff member to do that for you. But if you are curious and cannot wait to see your score in listening and reading, you can. There is an option for that. Now, speaking of scores, for the speaking, this is the scoring guides. So this is basically the description of a very good score. If someone can ace all of these, the person is going to get 29 to 30. I was about to say 29, but somehow stops at 20, and 20 is like a good score, but it's average. Okay, so there are three criteria. There are three elements there. We have the delivery, language use, and topic development. The first one is about how you speak, how you deliver. How is your fluency, basically? Is it clear enough? Do you mumble? Do you stutter? Or are you confident enough to speak whatever it is that you have in your notes? And then pronunciation as well. So be careful, make sure that you speak clearly. The thing about speaking clearly actually comes from confidence. So try to be confident because you are not facing someone else. You are facing a computer and a recording device. So be as confident as you can because somehow it's going to affect your score. So delivery, be confident and be fluent. And the second one is language use. Language use is, well, it's about grammar, honestly. About grammar, about tenses, about sentence structure. And then basically, if you can control your sentence structure in overall, well, you have nothing to worry about. Vocabulary as well. It is very well advised for you to not copy the exact words from the sources. So even when we have a reading passage, and then we have the listening passage, and then we write down the exact words, try to not copy the words, try to paraphrase them instead, because when we are able to paraphrase, it means that we have a good range of vocabulary, and that is a sign of a good score. Okay, the next one is topic development. So, what I like to say about speaking is that there is no right or wrong answer. Usually I teach IELTS, and as an IELTS teacher, I always tell my students that there is no right or wrong answer. However, in TOEFL iBT, especially for the integrated tasks, well, in a way there is, to some extent, to some degree. Because when you summarize something from two sources, from a source that is very clear, and the source said that there are three main points, and you only mentioned two, well, it's not actually accurate, is it? So, in a way, for TOEFL iBT, there is, to some extent, some kind of like speaking accuracy in terms of the topic and the content. So be careful, make sure to at least get the big ideas, at least get the big pictures and get the categories right. because, well, we need to put like a clear emphasis on the relationships of the ideas. Okay, so that's speaking. And oh yeah, there are 4 tasks in speaking: independent, integrated, 2, 3, and 4. And how is the score? Are they equal? Yes. The score for speaking, the total, is going to be equal divided into these 4 skills. So if you feel like you're good at independent but not so good at integrated, well, you have to practice more on the integrated tasks, because everything is going to be very important at the end. Okay, moving on to the writing skill. Now, in writing, we only have 2 tasks only. Sorry. I don't want to like downplay how writing is by saying only, because there are 2 tasks, and both of them are also equally important in the overall score of writing. The first is integrated. Now, in TOEFL iBT, when you hear the word integrated, always remember that this is a combination of many sources. So not just to write, but also to read, listen, and write. And just like in speaking, you are going to be reading something and then listen to a lecture about it, about a response, a reaction, and then you have to write a summary, mentioning both reading and listening. But again, just like in speaking, the main focus of the question is about what happens in the listening. What does the professor say in the listening? So mention more, focus more on the listening part. Now in here, what I want to focus on is this part. So there is no penalty whatsoever if you are writing less. If you are writing only 50 words, there's no penalty. However, usually 150 to 225 words, that's the ideal length of an essay. Because usually we have to summarize, right? Reading and listening. And that's usually how long it takes to summarize both. 150 to 225. If you want to write less or more, there's no penalty. It's okay. By all means, do that. I'm just worried if you write less, you might not capture some of the important parts of both sources. And for integrated, we only have 20 minutes to finish, which means because everything is automated, so you're going to move pretty swiftly to the next part. And if that happens, you have like some possibilities. Maybe your writing is not finished yet, or maybe you don't have time to basically look at everything again, and then maybe correct some of the typos, some of the punctuation errors, stuff like that. So always check out the timer. Okay, so that is the integrated task. Now, task number 2 is independent. Just like in speaking, if it is independent, it means that there is no elaborate tasks to do. You will have to answer a question on the question, and then provide an essay. Yes, usually this is the type of question. So just like an independent speaking. Do you agree or disagree with this? Some people believe X, other people believe Y, which is the one that you agree with? So agree, disagree questions. And usually, an effective essay contains a minimum of 300 words. Even though, once again, we are not counting. We are not putting a limited amount of words, limited number of words. So it's up to you. But if you can write until 300, that is better. And for independent writing, we have 30 minutes to complete that. And just like in integrated, it's going to close automatically once the time is up. Okay, so those are the two writing tasks, and I'm going to explain the scoring guides now. Because just like listening again, just like speaking, the scoring guide, the scoring for writing is also, there's no fixed scoring. It's not like if you got like all questions correctly, you will get 30. Well, it's not like that in writing because there are so many elements to pay attention to in scoring the writing test. Now, for the integrated task, you will be able to fit into this description to have a very good score. Select the important information from the lecture and accurately presents this information in relation to the relevant information presented in the reading. So accuracy is important. Once again, I cannot say there's no right or wrong in writing for IBT because there is. And then you need to have a response that is well organized. And then with language errors like this one, they are okay, they are forgivable, but as long as it doesn't change the meaning. So do not worry too much about grammar, do not worry too much about tenses, as long as it is still understandable and it doesn't appear often, you will be fine. And then this is for the independent task. So for independent task, you would need to effectively address the topic and task. Remember, this is usually an agree or disagree question. If you somehow forget to mention, you agree or disagree, somehow you forget to mention what is the topic, well, one part of your scoring is going to be affected a little bit. And then is well organized, the essay, that is, and well developed, using clearly appropriate explanations, exemplifications, and or details. So what I like to remind my students is that do not just list the reasons, because usually they would like to be, oh, I agree with this topic because of A, B, C, and D, and that's it. No. Explain. Because of A is blah, blah, blah. Because of B is blah, blah, blah. So always explain and give examples if you can. Also to display unity, progression, and coherence, which means that everything is connected. It's not jumping. This is also another problem. And consistent facility in the use of language, which means that we need to demonstrate appropriate word choice and then grammatical accuracy, even though this last sentence, though it may have minor lexical or grammatical errors. So if it is very minor, if it happens only once or twice, it's okay. It's not going to affect your score that much. So that is it for the writing scores. And basically that is it for the TOEFL iBT. To recap, we have 4 skills in TOEFL iBT. And then on the 4 skills, first we have reading and listening. And afterwards we have a break for 10 minutes. And then continued with speaking and then writing afterwards. And then afterwards, you have to wait for about 2 weeks to receive the score. It could be via email, because usually nowadays, the certificate is going to be in terms of a PDF file. So it's easier for you to apply anywhere. Okay, so that is it for me. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, you can contact me here at EONS or any teacher for that matter. And we are also opening our class in TOEFL iBT. We usually have 2 levels, IBT Foundation and IBT Advanced. If you want more information, you can just follow our Instagram, Eons Education or real.eons, or just come to the building, have a chat, and maybe take a placement test to see in which level that you are in TOEFL iBT. Thank you so much. This is all for me. I hope you have a great weekend, and I'll see you later sometime soon. Bye.
We
Ions
teachers
have been vaccinated.